Hi, welcome. We're doing something completely different right now because it's Saturday night and it's late, and I think I'm the only one awake in the house besides the cats. Maybe they're sleeping and that's why they're not scratching on my door. So, what I'd like to do is really go off script. There really is no script with tarot, but I pulled out, see this? Look at how many Dixit cards I have. And I love these cards so much. There's just so many of them. Literally hundreds, because 80 some cards per deck or per theme set. Expansion pack maybe is what they're called. And then I was like, I'm just going to mix them all together. And then I was like, well, now I can't even shuffle them, because there's just so many. So what I thought we could do is pull, by the way, my stomach is making so much noise. I have no idea what's going on, so you might hear it, which should be pretty funny. What I'd like to do is intuitively pull a bunch of cards and do a reading without any prior knowledge of what the card represents. Like in tarot, we kind of understand what each card is supposed to represent, but then we bring our own message, like our own intuition to it based on the messages we're hearing and the feelings we're feeling. Well, with this, there's no prior description of what these should be. So what I'd like to do is I'm just going to pull out several cards to shuffle into a reading. These, and just see what comes out. And maybe, see, I just can't stop pulling. Okay, we'll set everything else aside. This is a pretty, did you hear that? I'm trying not to do that on the desk because I know it's really loud in that microphone. Okay, except I'll do this. Okay, so we're starting with a stack like this. So Spirit, please send through whatever messages are meant to be heard right now. Probably collective energies. And just see, like, for the rest of this weekend and heading into the week ahead, what are some energies coming toward us? Thank you, Spirit. Let's see, what spread do we want to do? I think for the week ahead. I'll pull from the bottom. This is fascinating. I'm going to stop here. This is plenty to go on right now, and then we might clarify further. So let's just see if we have an overall energy here. There's a tightrope walker over a cityscape separated by a river from the forest scape. It almost reminds me of like Central Park within New York City. So it looks, and this tightrope walker has like a vase, a vase, like a ceramic vase on their head. And they look pretty confident. This is where it looks like they are sitting down with the straight leg out while the other leg dangles. And they're like, ta-da! And so let me show that more closely. So it's almost like a between worlds kind of feeling, and that river is our intuition, and it's like we're tightrope walking between worlds, yet relying fully on our intuition to support us. Like this person is not worried at all that they're dangling on a very thin wire above, like well above city and forest. So there's something about maybe our conscious and our subconscious, our conscious desires and our subconscious desires, And there's something about tightrope walking between those, yet relying fully on our intuition to guide us, navigating that. It's almost like this balancing energy of trying to stay balanced between what we know is our life's like passion and desire and purpose, and what our ego state tries to produce or manifest in the world. So we'll see if that resonates with the rest of this reading. And then we have, I've seen this card before, I love it. There's this giant carrying a young feminine looking mermaid creature through the forest away from the sea. See how like her home is here in the background, and this giant is carrying her onto land through this like forest, and she looks safe. She looks like she feels safe. She's like curled up in the giant's embrace. Look, like, because she is literally a fish out of water, like literally. And this giant's like, you can even see his toes through the boots. Like he's made to be on the land, and he's carrying her so that she isn't harmed. It doesn't look like she's sad that she's left her home. It looks like she feels safe in leaving her home, and she has trust in this strength of this being to carry her into maybe a new, it's like, I'm curious, like, where's she going? Will she be able to live there when the giant has to put her down? So there's this, again, changing worlds. And this is like hovering between two worlds. This is moving away from one world into another. And then in this card, we have a bird with a human head in a cage. And there's like shadow on the figure's face. And there's something around their neck. It almost just looks like a decorative ribbon. But it looks like they're caged, and they have like this sort of, oh, that's interesting. This hairdo, the top of it reminds me of the top of an upright acoustic bass instrument. I don't know what that has to do with anything. But there's this caged bird. So it's almost like there's this feeling of, there's like a feeling of being trapped. Oh, interesting. And then we have, this looks like a snail with this contraption on it that's blowing bubbles. Look at that. And we know a snail carries its home on its back. And there's this underwater element to it, because see how the sea, it's like the sea floor, it's like, it's almost like water-like. Yeah, it's like this snail is underwater, and which is interesting because snails are on the land, aren't they? I mean, they need moisture, and this contraption is like a breathing apparatus, and it's blowing bubbles. It's like, again, this snail is in a different place than its normal surroundings. And similarly, like, why does this bird have a human head? So it's definitely a calling back to our human self, saying, do we feel like a caged bird? Do we feel like a fish out of water? Do we feel like this isn't our natural habitat? So what is this device I need to like support me? There's definitely a lot of similarities with these. And then there's this guy looks like he's a sheep. Look at his hair here in his ears. So it's almost like, oh, and he has a bowl of characters, like little symbols that are falling out onto a book. that's illuminated. It's so fascinating. Are they falling out of the book, or are they falling up into his bowl? Oh, that's strange. I'm not quite sure what that means yet. But there's this like magic element to it, or this mysticism element to it. But he does seem like a sheep, like he's kind of shy or timid in some way. So let's clarify. Wow, this is really feeling into what energies, but there's definitely something where maybe you're feeling like, or maybe the collective is feeling like, we are out of our element. We feel a little trapped. We feel like we're moving between worlds. And we have to, like, there's this snail that has this, like, the snail, that breathing apparatus isn't on his face. So he's like, well, I think this is what I need to survive. But actually, he's fully fine on his own. Which, again, is like this. Like, even when we feel out of our element, like maybe we don't belong, we're trying to find our clear passage between worlds without feeling trapped. We have to rely on our inner wisdom, and these symbols are kind of gibberish. They don't make sense, and they're illuminated as if they're of divine origin, like our higher wisdom, because books kind of, there's a connotation there of wisdom, learning, and so the illuminated part makes me think, okay, that's our divine wisdom. Let's clarify these with more lack of clarification. Thank you, Spirit. Let's clarify the tightrope walker. Oh, interesting. So in this picture, this character, we don't see her face except reflected in the different mirrors, and there's different shapes, a circle, triangle, square, and she looks like she's different ages in each mirror, and they don't look like they're upset or in agony. They're just sort of like neutral face, but it's like she's reflecting on the different phases of her life, and maybe that has something to do with these. Do these also represent the different phases of our life that we've gone through? Is this a time of reflection and trying to understand, where do we really belong? And then, like, when you look back and say, when have I felt like a fish out of water? When have I felt trapped? When have I felt like I was overcompensating in my surroundings, like I didn't quite fit in, and I didn't quite know how to adapt to where I was? There's this, and then moving into like our higher wisdom, for where do we go from here? Why didn't we feel like we belonged? So maybe that's what this is about. We're reflecting on all these different phases of life and why we didn't belong. And it feels like that's a whole authenticity thing. Do you hear my stomach? It is wild right now. Okay, so I'm going to pull a card for each of these as well. This is fun. Actually, I know it didn't go right. Let me clarify the giant and the mermaid. Thank you. We have this character with an umbrella for a head where the birds are falling from the sky. Gosh, these are trippy pictures. I love it so much, especially for a Saturday night where I'm just like all alone in here doing weird stuff. So this is feeling very what do you call it? It's like very, what's that kind of art? Just absurdism in a way. Is that what that is? And they're literally, they have no head, and yet they're protecting their bodies from falling birds that are dive bombing them. So it's just really like, have you felt just absurd? Just like, I have to get another clarification on that. Oh my gosh. And then we have this octopus character like chained to a rock while the seas thrash about behind them. Again, this character is out of their natural surroundings and therefore having to adapt by putting a chain around them, when if they just went under the water where they belong, they wouldn't even feel the waves, because their natural habitat is to kind of be on the ocean floor where the waters are calm. So, and look, he looks all upset and worried. It's like when we've put ourselves out of our surroundings, we do really absurd things to make us feel like we belong there. Wow, we've been a fish out of water, and then we do weird things to adapt. And it's like that's a feeling of like we haven't known what our real home is, because we can feel comfortable and fully adaptive in our home if we feel like it's home. Let's clarify this bird woman feeling trapped, caged. So we have this character who's, it looks like a young boy. Again, another umbrella. What is this? It's like protection energy coming through, like we've needed to feel protected. And yet, again, doing absurd things. Like he's literally being flooded with water and yet is watering this weed that's growing, or this plant, when that plant has plenty of water. It's like, what are we trying to nourish around us that's already like, if we just leave it alone, it'll grow. Let's clarify this further. And then we have, this is interesting because that same shape is coming through. Look at that. Her bun and this top of this is like this, again, an upright base. That is so weird. This came through for this one. What does it mean? And this is a musical instrument that's also acting as a fountain pen. It's drawing a line across. It's so weird. Wow. There's something about the way we're using what we have, like our tools, to affect change, and yet we're still feeling trapped. It's like we don't have the right tool for the job. We don't feel equipped to affect change in our lives, and it's keeping us feeling trapped. Now this, because it's a reflection energy, I'm thinking this is where we've been. It's in the past. But does that resonate for you? Okay, let's go with this weird squirrel creature with the bubbles. Like trying to adapt to surroundings where they just don't belong in the first place. So why should you try to adapt? Oh, wow. So we have these birds. It's again like, it made me think of like the ugly duckling, or like which one of these things doesn't belong? Well, this white bird is in a weird maze or abstract tree with all these other birds that are not like them. Look at all this energy of just not being in your surroundings. And I know all these cards are not like that. So this is very odd that they all came out together. And then this is like an M.C. Escher painting. Like, what is up, down, which staircase leads where? And these foxes are like pretty clever, and yet they like can't figure this place out. Like they don't, like their surroundings, they just can't figure out their surroundings. And they're trying to adapt, and they're clever, and yet they still can't understand it. Wow, this is like weird. And then let's clarify this sheep man with the mystical symbols. Higher wisdom. Thank you. Oh, wow. We have, I think I say, oh, wow, with all of them. I just love these images. I don't get to play with these babies much, so I really like this time together. So this character is white on top with black pants, so they're like of two feelings, and they're in a film strip. Like they're performing, and they're kept divided. Like there's this division energy here again. But they have a top hat, like they're kind of magical, yet there's black and white, light and shadow. There's this balancing there, and maybe feeling of two minds. And then there's this Cupid character with an arrow in the flowers, about ready to throw an arrow at something. I don't even know what. I'm trying to see what's popping out here, and they look like cherries or something, but he's reaching out to pluck something while also at the same time about to throw an arrow at something. There's a lot of red in this. And Cupid does that to spark like love where maybe there wasn't before. So there's something about maybe this divine wisdom that you're tapping into through this reflection on your past life where you felt like you didn't belong. And now there's this energy of seeing this through maybe the eyes of love, to tap into your higher wisdom to see through the eyes of love. So there's this reflecting on your past in order to heal that energy of not feeling like you belong, so that you can step into like knowing like how to navigate that in your current life going forward. Because this is like, yeah, there are always going to be worlds in which I want to flow between. I'm going to belong everywhere and nowhere. And this tightrope walker is like, and I do it with ease through my intuition. And so there's this healing through love, by looking back and reflecting on all these times in your life where you were a fish out of water, you were trying to adapt to a situation you were ill-equipped to adapt to, which probably felt really awkward. You were feeling trapped. You were just doing these strange adaptive behaviors to try to navigate those situations, and you still felt out of sorts. You still felt like confused about your surroundings. And so maybe it goes back to childhood when you can't control your surroundings because there's a feeling of like you're trying to control things in this energy, but you're just adapting awkwardly. Yeah, and there's this through love, balancing light and shadow, and trying to ascend or transcend appearances to step into your authenticity and your higher wisdom. Whoa, what do you think? This was fun. I don't want to put any other cards to this. Yeah, meaning any other type of card. What I do want to do though is be like, well, where are we going from here? So let's extend beyond this reflection and say, how do we apply this going forward? And see if there's anything that'll give us a clue about how to do that. So we have this astronaut, again, this fish in an astronaut helmet. This fish does not belong in outer space, and yet they're adapting by building, like having the spacesuit that it's filled with water so that they can adapt to their new surroundings. And this fish looks totally happy and capable to do that. And this time it does look like they have the right outfit for the job. If this fish really feels like they must go to outer space and explore new worlds, now they know exactly they are equipped to do that. They have the right tools. So through this healing that you're doing, with reflecting on all this time, like, look back with love and say you did the best you could in all of these situations where you didn't have full control over this, over your surroundings, your experience, your moving from childhood through all the stages of childhood to adulthood. There was always this, like, what, like, well, I said it before, I don't need to repeat it, but look back and heal that. And it seems like the tool that you have is like where you applied that awkwardly before, now you're able to adapt pretty easily in your life going forward. That's also a trauma response, isn't it? When we've had to just adapt over and over out of like survival mode, perhaps, that going forward, it's like, oh yeah, I can adapt to any situation. But what I'd like to do is say, what's something to look out for with, that's a very good quality now going forward, is like you can adapt with ease, and now I am clever, I have the right tool for the job. That's no problem. Is there anything to still work through or be aware of, even in that more positive light of that energy? Oh, this is interesting. I guess it goes this way. That makes me feel like it's falling. That's interesting because it totally relates, like these little fire blobs flying through space. It's like this fish obviously has to be aware of they're not fully protected. And there seems to be this, no matter what you build up around you, protection-wise, so that you can navigate your world, your day-to-day experience, there's always going to be something coming at you that could potentially harm you. And it's not an energy of saying that so that you should armor up and be fearful. No, it's drop the armor so that you can be ready for what comes your way, instead of a false readiness, like, oh, I got my protective bubble now, I'm fully ready, I don't have to worry about anything. It's like, well, stuff's always going to come at you, so try not to armor up. I feel like that's what that's saying is. Let's just get one more clarification here. And then we have this older woman with an apron who has a bunch of children's heads on sticks, like in a planter. That is bizarre, and the look on her face is kind of disturbing. And the kids don't look so sure of themselves either. I wonder if this is the energy going back to all these phases of childhood, adolescence, and young adulthood, where like you were kept, like this is very what do you call it, like these people can't move, they're like kept limited, they're all in a pot, and she's looking at them like, yep, you better stay there. So there is some element of not having been able to control these situations in your youth, because these are a picture of youth, and there's a lot of youth showing up here. That's interesting. So I wonder if this is where it comes from. But what's the message going forward? What's the positive message from Spirit, from the universe, saying, yeah, we can't predict all of the pitfalls that are going to come our way, and therefore we don't need to armor up, because we should be able to adapt on the fly with whatever comes our way. Is that what you're trying to tell us? Is there anything else? Look at this. This is this feeling of, there's an older person, so now they've matured through this. There's like a matured understanding that you can fully rest easy, even in the claws of the beast, like in a truly treacherous situation, she doesn't look worried. She looks fully comfortable. She's kicked back and reading a book that's looks like in the shape of a butterfly, which is beautiful. She's anchored in like this beautiful energy into her mature ages, and she's not fearful at all, even though she's literally in a big giant beast's claw. So there's rest easy and know that you are divinely guided. You've matured through all of this to say, I can be comfortable and safe anywhere. Do you feel that? Because when we go through stuff in our younger years, it truly does prepare us for the road ahead. We don't have to keep armoring up and be like, I got it right this time. I feel like I belong because I'm adapting. I'm adapting to the situation. And that's the appearances piece. Like, it might appear like we're adapting, but we're going to mature to a place eventually where it's not appearances. Like, she's fully unprotected, unarmored up, and she knows she's safe. You can be safe anywhere. It's a mindset with healing what these feelings of like why we felt like we never belonged, or why we were trapped, or why we didn't have control in our lives. So I'll stop it there. What do you think about this style of reading? It can get pretty deep and it can get pretty trippy. So anyway, thanks for trying this out with me. I really felt those energies. Again, everything felt pretty cohesive, but what did you read into it? Because these images hit each of us differently. So yeah, thanks for being here. Bye.